Well, hello, everyone. This is another Live with Lee. We've got 3 events this week, and we're kicking it off big time with Ms. Jessica Sweet. And Jessica is the founder and owner of Wishing Well Coaching. And the reason that I've asked Jessica to talk with us today is because on any given day of any given week, there is somebody who is really frustrated and taking it out on themselves as to why they haven't landed a job. There are all kinds of reasons as to why people aren't landing jobs today. And we're going to talk about some of those reasons with Jessica. More importantly, we're going to talk about the psychological impact of what's happening to job seekers today and what you can do to bring yourself back into a positive, more productive mindset. Jessica, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Lee. I'm glad to be here.
Oh my gosh, we are honored to have you. So I hunted you down a little bit like a dog on social media. Thank goodness we had some connections, mutual connections, where I wasn't having to, hunt too hard. But thank you for this. Thank you for this opportunity. So Jessica, if you would just give us an understanding of what your background is and how you got to do what you're doing today.
Absolutely, yeah. So. My background is as a social worker. Actually, I spent the first part of my career doing therapy. I was trained at a Harvard-affiliated hospital that allowed me to train with really well-known and established therapists and psychiatrists. So I did that for about 10 years and did therapy training, and then also a special fellowship in trauma and recovery. So I worked with people with mental health issues and substance abuse issues for, again, about 10 years. And then I had my first daughter, who is about to turn 13, which is shocking to me. And when I had her, it didn't make sense for me to go back to work. So I spent a little time trying to figure out what I was going to do and decided I was going to start my own coaching practice. So that was about 12 and a half years ago. And here I am. So.
That's incredible. So we should have a whole other conversation about how you started that business in the first place, but this is really about these job seekers. So how did you go from that type of counseling, right? Medical, psychological counseling to job counseling?
Yeah.
Is that not the only thing that you counsel on? What are all the areas of counsel that you provide?
Yeah. So I really do a lot of work ranging from really just the tactics of job search and, growing your career and that sort of thing, all the way into the mindset and kind of emotional aspects related to career. And that's really, I think, what differentiates me, and my sweet spot is talking to people about the things that are related to their emotions and their career. So it could be anything from, finding it really difficult to land a job and the emotional impacts of that, or getting out of a toxic work situation is something that I've dealt with multiple times. It could be starting a family and also getting a promotion at the same time. That is something that's really difficult. It could be getting laid off. So there's so many components of career that overlap with your mindset, your mental health, and all those things. So that's really, I think, what makes me different, is to be able to talk about how those two things intersect.
And I think that the differentiation there is the clinical side of it. And to me, that would be the key, in fact, if not a discriminator in the space of coaches and in this space. And what I mean by discriminator is that I don't know of any other people who are doing what you're doing to the degree that you're doing it, and with the background and capability that you have. So let's talk about what the number one hurdle is. We were talking before in preparation for this that I know personally. I receive them every week, Jessica. Phone calls and emails from people who are at their wits' end.
Mhm.
And on more occasions than I care to admit, I'm doling out the suicide hotline number or even calling the police. That's
Mhm.
how things have gotten these days. And so for you, what are you hearing from today's job seekers as being the biggest or greatest toll on them? Is it the job search itself, or is it the rejection, or what is it that's pushing it to the edge?
Yeah, I mean, so search is really hard by itself, and there are a lot of things that are hard about job search in general. But today's job search is really different. And the thing that I'm hearing from people who are job seeking today is that they're job seeking with all that goes along with it, the rejection and the fear and all of those things. And they're doing it in the context of social isolation. That's the thing that I'm hearing over and over again, is that people aren't getting the support that they need, and they're not getting not only the support but just the normal human interaction that they need. It's I was talking to a client the other day, and I was saying to her that it's in jail. You know, the solitary confinement is the worst torture that they come up with, right? I mean, that is what they give to people. And she was like, yeah, I have solitary confinement. Yes, I have internet and Netflix, but it's kind of the same thing. And that's what people are dealing with. They're doing job search, which is terrible in normal circumstances, but they're doing it in kind of a solitary confinement type of situation.
So for those individuals who have not, and so investing in yourself really is necessary on multiple levels at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the suggestions that you give them to get outside of this solitary situation in this job search?
Well, some of the basic things include self-care. So making sure you have a daily structure where you're really like pretending that you are going to work. You know, you get up and you take a shower. You have an agenda for the day that includes job search activities. You are making sure that you're reaching out to people in your life, even if it's just Zoom calls or phone calls. You're getting outside, taking a walk, you know, doing what you can do like that. I mean, the daily structure is really, really important. And it allows you to feel kind of normal, right? Because otherwise the days really blend into each other, and you don't feel like you're accomplishing anything, which really kind of feeds into itself in a negative loop type of way.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to break the monotony.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You need to put a dent in that the daily grind, if you will, and shake things up. Is that not part of neuro-linguistic programming or something, where you're just breaking whatever barrier is in your way to get to that next step?
I don't know enough about NLP to be able to answer that, actually.
And neither do I. And sorry, my phone is going off. This is the second time on a live broadcast that's happened. And you would think I would learn. Sorry about that, folks. So to level set the room, I am here today with Jessica Sweet, who is the founder of, is it Wishing Well? I don't have you. I just, Wishing Well Consulting or coaching. And she is a counselor, a certified counselor, and also a career coach, and helps individuals throughout the process of transitioning in any phase of their career. It sounds like, Jessica, not just when you're losing a job, but there's all these other parts of being in working that can get affected. And we've got some folks that are joining us today. We don't have a real name, but somebody from, is it Cincy or Cincy, Ohio, is a fan and says hello. So thank you so much for joining us. If you have questions, feel free to pop them into the comments. And we are going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So all of your comments will be seen. So back to our questions, Jessica. For some, we were talking about 3 to 5 things that people can change. But what is it? What are the high signs? So there's a lot of people out there doing career coaching, a lot. There's a lot of people out there that are offering, resume help and all these other things. What is the point, though, at which somebody like me needs to say, you need to talk to Jessica? I've maxed out my capabilities, and I know personally when I have, but what are some things that other coaches and consultants need to be mindful of when this is not a simple, let's get your resume together situation?
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people will refer to me when a client is really struggling to figure out what direction they're going. So they don't have a job target. They don't know what they want to do next in their career. So that's one of the things that I really help people figure out. And then on the sort of the mindset side, when you're spending a lot of time working on that, versus the maybe more of the tactics and strategies around job search. So I think every coach has a level of tolerance or a ratio of mindset versus job search strategies and tactics. And if they're feeling like they're getting a little too much on the mindset stuff and that feels a little deep for them, then that could be a referral for me. I've worked with a lot of people with ADHD, depression, anxiety. So those things are things that feel routine for me, as long as there are certain parameters around safety and that sort of thing. But then there's also a certain point where somebody could become a referral to a therapist and not appropriate for me also. I've worked with people who are also in therapy. I do that all the time. But sometimes they need that support at the same time. So I think every coach or resume writer has to make that assessment about when it feels like too much.
Mm-hmm. And I think at some point we should all have emergency contact information available in case things get to that extreme where someone is threatening themselves or others. So having that suicide hotline available, 911 available, all those resources. Are you seeing a lot of that extreme behavior from your clients or just in your community, that people are getting that degree of frustration? I know I am.
Yeah, I'm seeing people getting depressed. I am not seeing people getting suicidal, fortunately. But I do see how it happens, because this situation is extreme and it's gone on for a long time at this point. It wears on everybody, and especially the people that don't have kind of the social supports that they need.
So you because you brought it up, you mentioned the isolation in jail. Typically, and I don't know too much about prison life personally. I've never experienced it other than what I see on TV. But for how long do and you may not know this answer. I wonder how long people are typically put in isolation, solitary confinement in a prison, because we've been going on this for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Are people usually imprisoned in isolation for a year?
I'm sure that they are not. I don't know the answer. I really don't, but I can't imagine that would be the case. I also think, using the solitary confinement analogy is a little bit of a hyperbole. Like, we're not truly in solitary confinement. Like, we do actually have the ability to call and Zoom with people and be on the internet. So it's not truly, but I mean, it's enough of an analogy where we can think about, like, this isn't normal or natural or good for us. We know that. So
they're not, what I'm trying to say is that if you're feeling like this, you're not alone. You're not going nuts. You're not alone. That this is real. It is not something that you've fabricated, that we are experiencing something unique for our generation, right? So our generation has never gone through this before. There's no operating manual.
Yeah. It's a normal reaction, and it's a totally natural thing to be feeling.
Yeah. Let's I want to talk about a success story, one that you might be really proud of. We did not rehearse this, people, so whenever anybody gets on live, I give them a list of questions. Once we've covered those questions, I come at them with more questions. Unless, of course, people from the audience do. But I do want to get an answer to this one, because I've been getting this a lot, not for me personally, but candidates that I'm working with. they are expressing such tremendous fear about their age. So many of them in their 50s have lost their jobs. They were high earners, or they are living or were living paycheck to paycheck, and then the rug got pulled out from under them. So what might you say to somebody who just believes that they're outdated?
Yeah.
They're outdated. What do you say to that?
I say this all the time to my clients. When you are, first of all, it depends on what kind of job you're going for. This applies to my clients a lot, because I usually work with people in, professional level jobs, executive jobs, or C-level. So for those people, accumulating that level of experience takes time. So if somebody is a professional and they're saying, I'm too old, nobody's going to hire me, somebody who's 20 years old is not going to be able to get an executive or professional level job, because you just cannot accumulate the amount of experience needed to get that kind of job. For people in other types of jobs, it really is not about your age. It's about positioning yourself well and getting in to talk to decision makers. So that doesn't mean ageism doesn't exist, but it does mean that you have the ability to find people who would be willing to hire you if you can have a strategy of networking and positioning yourself, talking about your personal brand in a way that people will be compelled to listen to.
Well, let's just go right there, since you opened up that door on networking. I mean, you're doing great. So we're gonna hit it all today. So let's talk about networking and positioning. I know people in my own age bracket who think networking is, it only happens at a bar. They're just not used to this online stuff. When I find people my age who don't use technology the way that I do, I just want to say shame on you, which is the absolute wrong thing for me to be saying, right? Which is why I don't counsel them or coach them. So let's be clear on that. I'll send them to you. But what do you say to these people who are not tech savvy? They have not been accustomed to living online. What do we do?
Yeah. I mean, so I think it is a shift in mindset, and you really do have to start to embrace it. There's nothing to say about it except you have to learn it in order to get to the goals that you want to get to. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It just has to be something that you start doing little by little every day.
Yeah, and let's talk about that. Boy, Jessica, you're just feeding them to me. Learning. To me, this is the most exciting part of being in between jobs, is you now have the time to learn things that you didn't have before. So what kinds of things are you should learning always be something about our business skills, or can it be any type of learning?
It can be any type of learning. You really should examine what your goals are. So your goals might be to get to the next level in your career, or enhance something about your career, and then you might pick something related to your business or career goals. But your goals might be, I really want to learn to paint because I haven't done painting in 15 years. And so I want to, do more with that. And so your goal might be to have fun or to do something you haven't done in a long time. And, taking advantage of the time that you have to do something that you might not have otherwise been able to do, except for the fact that you're not working for a period of time. So look at where your goals are. Yeah.
I have lots of projects in my house. So if anybody isn't working, I have lots of things for you to do. You will not be bored. So if you're anywhere near Baltimore, Maryland, now is the time. Gotcha. Nice and busy. So let's talk about one of your most proudest moments working with one of your clients. What is that all about? Tell us about that.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I have to kind of rack my brain. I mean, I feel like I've had a lot of fantastic clients. Picking a recent one, I would say I had a very recent one. I had a client that I worked with for interview coaching. And she came to me and she was very, I could tell right away, like she was brilliant, really smart, but very, like just her personality was like very timid. Like she was a worker, but not one to take credit for what she does.
Mm.
And so my interview coaching was really to help her kind of talk about the work that she is able to do. And so we worked together for just 90 minutes in interview coaching. And then about 2 weeks later, I got an email from her saying that she landed the job that she really wanted. So, I mean, it's stuff like that that really keeps you going when you're working hard with people, you believe in the people, you can see their potential, and then they get what they're going for.
So it's her ability to tell her story.
Yeah. Yep.
Doesn't it all boil down to that? Our ability to tell our story. Why is that so difficult for people? What's the mental, psychological thing that gets in our way of storytelling?
I mean, I think a lot of times it is really not wanting to toot our own horn. I think for a lot of people, that's what it is. We don't want to sound just like we're bragging. And we're afraid that if we do, people won't like us. So finding that balance between telling our story and not being somebody that brags feels really difficult. Knowing how to tell it in a way that comes off as powerful, but yet not like bragging is really hard. So yeah, I think that's one of the really hard things.
Yeah, and Laura, whom I've known for decades, we used to work together. She agrees 100%. So do you mind if we stay on that topic for just a minute? What is it? What are some of the things or words that we can use or that you suggest that allow us to tell our story without sounding braggadocious?
So one of the things is to talk about there are some times where you want to talk about what I did in an interview, like I did this. But then there are other times that you can say, I helped the team do this or we did this. So to kind of I led the team to do this. You don't have to always take all the credit for something. You also can just recognize in your own mind that when you're talking about something, that the interviewer understands implicitly that it wasn't something you did all by yourself. So if you're talking about like a really huge project, and then you're talking about like how you pulled it off, there are times when you might talk about, I was able to cut the budget by X% or whatever. The company's going to understand that there were other parts and pieces to that there were other people involved in that, but that you were a key player. You don't have to point it out that there were other people involved, but just that you were there. They're going to understand that you weren't working alone. So you shifting your own mindset to know that they get it can really help you be able to just put that information forward.
So you tell me if I've been doing this right or wrong, right? You can tell me on live air right now. I've been suggesting that folks just think about how proud they are of what they've done versus trying to, and all the people that played a part in their success. When they get that excited and enthusiastic about it, it does become less about them. It seems to automatically become less about them and more about the grander scheme of what they did. And that, and I think the other part is that they have a really hard time understanding how what they did ties to the business. So there's that business level acumen I think that also needs some help there too.
Definitely.
What are some, no, don't do that, Lee. When you, during an interview, no, Lee, we don't ever want you to do that, ever. What advice would you give me in that regard? And, it doesn't have to be for me personally, Jessica. It could be for, anybody, but my flaws. So
during an interview or just in general?
Just in general. In life, Jessica, in life. No, during an interview, what are like the one or two no-nos that, that often don't lead to an offer?
Mm-hmm.
What are the one or two things that consistently get in the way of somebody getting an offer that we can be mindful of?
I think that not being prepared is a huge thing. People think that being prepared means, just looking over the company website or researching like the top questions, the top interview questions, and thinking about, what their answers to those questions might be. But that's really not enough preparation for an interview. So I think really doing a deep dive into company values, understanding how your values aligning the stories that you tell with the values of the company, things like that really can help nail an offer rather than just kind of glossing over the interview and having the same prep for every interview. So like the same answers in interview A as you would give in interview B.
Excellent. And so that's the prime. Do you think that's the primary one? Maybe that and storytelling, their inability to tell their story?
Yeah, I think those two. I mean, I think not preparing, I think not being able to really convey your value. I think not, I think also maybe definitely to a lesser degree, but not coming off as professional. So I've worked with a lot of people that I've coached in interview coaching that either have, they're not really tics, but like they might laugh inappropriately because they're nervous. Their backgrounds might be really crazy and cluttered, or like their dog might be running in the room or something like that. It's that kind of chaos or lack of preparation that can really kind of impede their focus and their ability to seem professional. So really just taking the time to kind of look at what's happening, practice in the mirror or with somebody else, that can really help.
So there's a lot to prepare for. And I don't think people realize everything that there is to prepare for, from the environment, from your technology, from the, to the research and the understanding, the positioning, the confidence that you portray, to what you're wearing, how you're sitting. There's a lot going on. So in the last minute and a half that we have, and if I don't forget to thank you profusely, thank you for all of these wonderful tidbits that you're providing, which is big information. But what can we do we know that we're going to be going into an interview and there's going to be bias on that side of the table, on the other side of the table. We bring our own biases to these meetings, right? It's just human nature. How do you recognize a bias, and how can you say, no, we don't need to have that bias. We need to clean that and go in with an open mind about that company or that hiring manager or what have you. Because sometimes we've got our own biases against ourselves, which don't do us any favors. How do we actually, what's that self-talk that we need to be saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes it really is about talking to the company, like people within the company, and getting as many different perspectives as you can, so that you have just gathered real information. And you don't have, because I feel like a lot of times the bias is your own maybe false view of what's happening. But if you can gather real information through informational interviews, then it doesn't feel so much like a bias anymore. It feels like actual information that you've gathered. So I think that can be really useful. And then I also think, just trying to be aware that you are attempting to have an open mind. The other day, somebody looks like she's being ghosted from her interview, and kind of had to talk her down from sending an angry email. So we said, I said to her, you don't know what's happening. Like, maybe you're being ghosted, but maybe not. So let's calm down and take a breath before you send something that you might regret.
Yeah, jumping to conclusions, the ladder of inference, all of those things never usually yield us a good outcome.
Mm-hmm.
We just make too many assumptions without the facts. And we are at 30 minutes. Jessica, this flew by. Thank you so much. If you are watching post the live broadcast, please do make sure that you have a pen and notepad, because Jessica offered some significant insights as to how we can improve the way that we prepare for and think through the entire job search and hiring process, and right through to getting a better chance at getting an offer. Jessica, thank you so much. For people who want to get a hold of you, is it okay? Laura, thank you for being here. Laura's saying thanks, Jessica and Lee. The best way to get a hold of you: LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, email, what's
LinkedIn. So I'm at LinkedIn, Jessica Sweet Coach, and then my website, which is wishingwellcoach.com.
Well, Coach, and I'm going to put that, flash it on the screen right now for everybody. We'll leave that on for just a second so that you guys can all get it. And we thank you so much for attending this Live with Lee today. And Jessica, again, thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great one. Bye.